So let me tell you what happened. I'm going to tell you why I decided to do this. So on January 2nd, I woke up in the middle of the night. And I was like, all these thoughts running through my head. I said, oh my God, I got to write this down. So I jumped up. I was looking for my notebook. I had to go all the way downstairs, freezing cold. I had to go all the way downstairs. I got my notepad. I came back and I wrote these notes on it. And one of the things that I wrote was, replace career-destroying, time-wasting, destructive thoughts with the things that you would have me focus on. Now this, for me, was a prayer. Like, when I heard it, it made me stop and just say it. And then I jumped up and went and got my pad. So, if you change that to what I believe is me being given a message for you, which is replace career-destroying, time-wasting, destructive thoughts with the things that you should focus on. You know, thoughts become things. I saw this on a, what did I do with it? Did I get it? Oh, that's weird. Oh, here it is. Thoughts become words. Words become actions. Actions become habits. Habits become your character. And your character becomes your destiny. Is that powerful? You guys want me to repeat that again? Thoughts become words. Words become actions. Actions become habits. Habits become your character. And your character becomes your destiny. This whole thing about words and what comes out of our mouths, because I have always believed that what comes out of your mouth goes back into your head and lodges there and stays there. And so it's so important to change the things that you say to yourself and the things that you say out loud to other people. And these are, so I wrote that on my pad, replace limiting beliefs with limitless thoughts. Limitless thoughts become limitless words, and limitless words give you the wings that you need to fly. I was reading a book that talked about, hold on, now that I'm got so nervous and crazy, now I'm burning up. And yes, it's probably 2 degrees outside, but whatever. Create new anchor thoughts. Go-to thoughts. In other words, you cannot wait until there's a crisis to come up with the things that you need to say so that you can fill your head with words that give you the strength or give you the courage to pursue a dream, to take advantage of an opportunity, to just simply go for it. Okay? If you wait until the last minute, it's like, you know what it's like? It's like finding yourself in a situation and somebody says something and you can't think of what to say, and then afterwards you say, oh, I should have said this, I could have said that, I should have said this, and it's too late. But why do we wait? Why don't we plan what to say the same way we plan everything else? I mean, if you had to do a speech, you would practice it ahead of time. If you have to read a poem out loud in church, you're going to practice it ahead of time. And so if you think about the things that come up that you wish you had the right words for, what I'm telling you is that you can empower yourself with the right words and practice them so that the words are always there. So that the words are always there. So, I have always felt like, well, let me say this. when Pharrell Williams came out with that song Happy, I'll never forget the first time I heard it. And he said, do you feel like a room without a roof? I was like, oh my God, I have always my whole life felt like a room without a roof. I always felt like everything was possible, that I could do anything. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to think for 1 second I haven't had some of those negative thoughts. I haven't let anything stop me, because I have. And I've had to overcome those things. Hi, Patrick. And I've overcome those things by filling up my head with other things that were more positive, and writing down the words that I needed so that they were there when I needed them. Okay? I was very fortunate, and I know everybody's not fortunate. Everybody doesn't come from a house that they wish they came from. And I mean, even with my sister and brother, my sister was raised with my mom, and I was raised with my grandmother. And those two separate experiences have made us different people. You know, she will complain sometimes, well, you're just too optimistic. Well, I am optimistic, but that's just me. But that's come from my grandmother telling me from the time I was a little kid, you can do anything, you can do anything. And then forcing me, most important thing, forcing me to figure it out, not letting me quit things when I didn't feel like it. As a matter of fact, my grandmother was a seamstress, and I used to sew, and I still can really, really sew. But left up to me, if I started something, I would start it, and then I would move on to something else. In the middle of making a pair of pants, oh, I want to make a skirt now. My grandmother would be like, no, come back. No, come back. So that having to finish things has really helped me throughout my life as an adult. And I was telling one of my friends the other day, you need to become a finisher. That's what you need to do. You need to become a finisher. So what happened is that my grandmother, the combination of my grandmother believing in me and my grandmother not allowing me to jump around from things to things, caused me to be a finisher. But then having a healthy fear of my grandmother meant that I never wanted to disappoint her. And in never wanting to disappoint her, when limiting beliefs or limiting thoughts would pop up in my head, like, what if they don't like me? Or what if they don't think I'm good enough? You know, what if they don't like me and they don't want me? That's rejection. What if I'm not good enough? That's judgment. But for me, I had a healthy fear of my grandmother that meant I was more afraid of disappointing my grandmother than I was of being rejected by others or being judged by others. Those are limiting beliefs. I'm afraid of what others will think. I don't want them to not like me. Those are limiting beliefs, and we have to replace them with limitless thoughts. Those anchor thoughts and those go-to thoughts. So, what are the negative thoughts? What do? Number one, they keep us stuck, right? Negative thoughts paralyze us and they keep us stuck. And they sustain our limiting beliefs. Oh my gosh, Patrick said, I was there the other day and I had to replace those thoughts. Exactly. Those thoughts sustain our limiting beliefs about ourselves, about our intellect, about our abilities, about our failures, and about our tries. It's like they sustain. Those thoughts keep us where we are instead of allowing us to move forward, to move up, and to grow. What is a limiting belief? It is an irrational fear. It doesn't make any sense to be afraid, for instance, to make a phone call, right? It doesn't make any sense to be afraid to walk through a door. But when we start to have these limiting beliefs and we start to say them out loud, and instead of creating a positive thought as our mantra, those limiting beliefs about ourselves, our intellect, our ability, our failures. A limiting belief about your failure is, well, remember what happened last time? That's a limiting belief, reminding you that the last time you tried something, you failed. The last time you tried something, it didn't work. The last time you tried something, it didn't come out the way that you really wanted it to come out. And so now that becomes the thought in your head that stops you at the door of opportunity. And so you have to replace that with something else. And what did I write down? I wrote down, because I wrote down some examples. Oh, here it is, right here in my face. So they probably won't hire me. I'm going to give you 3 different positive statements. And I'm going to give you these 3 different positive statements because I think that depending on where you are in your life, sometimes your statements about yourself might have to be stepping stones. Okay, so here's one. Even if I don't get the job, I'm going to learn a lot that I can use next time. To me, that's a stepping stone thought. Okay, here's another one. This is like a totally positive thought, which is if you start hearing they probably won't hire me, you can say they can use someone with my skills and expertise. You know, you hear that thought and you go, whoa, wait a minute. They can use someone with my skills and expertise, right? Patrick says, there's no reason not to hire me. I've prepared myself. And let me tell you something. Preparation is everything because it is preparation that will give you over the hump. And this is why I think it's so important to write down the things that pop into your head that are negative and write down your positive response and then practice those positive response. That's excellent, Patrick. Another one I wrote down is the production is going to be happy that they found someone with my skills, expertise, and qualifications. That's just totally taking it to the next level. So those are some of the ways that you can replace those negative thoughts with positive ones. Take the time to write them down, okay? So what did I say? A limiting belief is an irrational fear. But the other thing that I wrote down, because I read that, I looked it up in the dictionary. But the thing I wrote down is a limiting belief can also be a superstition. A limiting belief can be a superstition. I'm not a superstitious person. I'm not afraid about what's going to happen if a black cat comes out. I'm not afraid of what will happen if I walk underneath the ladder. I just don't believe in those kinds of things. Okay? And I think those can be limiting beliefs because what happens is those kinds of things, those seemingly benign statement like, I'm not going to walk. If I walk in front of this black cat, something bad can happen. It seems like a seemingly benign statement, but what happens is that it takes root in your head and then it becomes your security blanket. Okay? A limiting belief. How does a limiting belief manifest itself in your life? This is what I wrote down. This is what came to me. It causes you to modify your behavior outside of your natural inclination, which is your first thought, and your natural inclination is usually to go for it. Right? Think about this. I'm going to say it out loud. Okay, I'm going to read it this time. How does a limiting belief manifest itself in your life? It causes you to modify your behavior in situations where your natural inclination is to go for it. Because 9 times out of 10, our first thought is to go for it. And after we think about it, then the negative thoughts start coming in. Are you sure you should do it? Aren't you afraid to do it? What if they don't? What if you can't? What if I fail? What if? Those are all limiting thoughts, but they usually come after the feeling of, I should do this. That's your natural inclination. And what I'm trying to get you to do is I really want you to embrace your natural inclination. Hey, Christy Guy, what's up? Patrick, you said I'm on it. Am I on it? Yes. Okay. So don't let those seemingly benign statements that have creeped into your psyche to become the security blanket that keeps you stuck and keeps you from moving forward in your life, right? Okay, so I'm just making a mess over here, you guys. Seriously, I am. Okay. 4 limiting beliefs. Let me talk about them. We can discuss them. 4 limiting beliefs. Number 1, oops, did I put them out of order? Wait a minute. You guys, I swear, I got so freaked out by oversleeping. Totally freaked out by oversleeping. That now I'm all out of order. Oh, no, there it is. Okay. Okay. 4 limiting beliefs and the thoughts that are keeping us stuck. Number 1, rejection. What does rejection sound like? They're probably going to say no. So I'm not going to ask for what I want because they're probably going to say no. It's rejection because inside what you're saying is, I don't dare ask for what I want because what if they reject me? That is a limiting belief. It's a limiting belief. What if they say yes? Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to think about that statement. I want you to write down, they're probably going to say no, so I'm not going to ask for what I want. And then on the left side of the paper, and on the other side of the paper, hi, Tara. Want you to write down, but what will happen if they say yes? Right? What thought can you replace? They're probably going to say no, so I'm not going to ask with. Because let me tell you something. Here's the deal, you guys. Without a new thought, the vacuum in your head with nothing to say gets filled up with that negative thought, and it just gets bigger and bigger, and it gets louder and louder until it takes up all the space in your head, and that is what paralyzes you and keeps you from taking action. So you cannot leave a negative thought in your head to take root. You've got to replace it with something else. You see what I'm saying? You got to replace that thought with something else. And you have to repeat that new thought until it becomes stronger and more powerful than the negative thought in your head that's keeping you stuck. So number 1 is rejection. Number 2 is lack of trust or betrayal. My mom told, and a lot of times these are historical. These thoughts of yours are learned behavior. May I DM you later? I have a question. Yeah, or you can ask me here if you want. So number 2, trust and betrayal. It can come from something like, my mom told her best friend about an idea that she had years ago and she stole it. So I'm not going to tell anyone anything. I'm just going to keep it all to myself. Right? Someone else had an experience and now you are allowing that experience to impact you to the point that you don't take advantage of opportunities, you don't take advantage of partnerships, you don't take advantage of things that come into your life because you're afraid that something, you don't trust people. You know, your mother was betrayed, now you're afraid of being betrayed. Okay? I can't trust people lest they betray my trust. Okay, so we get into that zone. But the thing is this, what that requires is you to just prepare better, have better advisors, get an attorney. Don't take an idea that you have and throw it out there on social media, but you cannot live your life not trusting anyone. I'll give you a perfect example. In the Win Now Mentorship Program, Rennie and I tackled this very problem in a module we call Trick or Treat. Okay, trick or treat. Are you tricking yourself out of opportunities because of something that happened to you or someone else in the past? And so you're not treating yourself with opportunities. You're tricking yourself out of them by holding everything in, by being afraid to share. Okay? That's you tricking yourself out of a treat, which is perhaps finding a partner that can help you with a project. You see where I'm going with this? You need to be careful. You need to be cautious, but you cannot afford not to trust anyone. Every time I do the Win Now Mentorship Program, every Wednesday, we have a live session just like this with me and everybody in the class. The first 3 weeks are hell on me. Why? Because nobody trusts anybody. Because I'm asking them to speak up. I'm asking them to let me hear their voice. I'm asking them to reveal their feelings, their challenges, and their issues in front of a bunch of other people that they don't know. And because social media is so imposing in our lives, people are afraid that if I tell somebody this is a problem I've had, if I tell somebody that this is a fear that I have, they're going to go blab it to everyone, or they're going to make me feel stupid, or they're going to make me feel some kind of way. And so people don't open up. They don't open up till like the 4th week when they realize that this is a safe place. This is a safe place because I don't allow any foolishness, okay? So one of the things that I do is I allow people to send me messages privately in advance, and then I bring them up, and then people start chiming in on them, and that's where people start to feel like, because somebody will say, oh my gosh, while somebody wasn't willing to reveal that that was a challenge for them because they have trust issues, because they or someone close to them has been betrayed in the past and they're afraid to let things out for fear what will happen. What happens is when they give me the messages privately and I just say them out loud, well, someone mentioned this. Then everyone starts chiming in. Oh, that happened to me too. Oh yeah, I had an experience like that. And then they start to open up. And once they start to open up, the magic happens because they realize they have comrades. They realize there are like-minded people in the group with them that are having the same challenges. And then by the fourth week, they start opening up and they're no longer afraid because we're all in this together. Okay? But if it's a situation where it's a one-on-one thing and you have something you're trying to get done, you need to surround yourself with advisors who can help you so that you don't keep something to yourself that can be the greatest idea that you've ever had. And the other thing, I think it's hard for us to realize that a lot of times in order to get something done, we have to form partnerships. And these limiting beliefs that we have keep us from forming partnerships with people who can help us get to the next level. And when you think about everything that goes on in our .com lives, people that start businesses rarely do it alone. You know, when you need $10 million and you don't have it, you've got to trust somebody with something. So our first limiting belief was rejection. The second one was trust and betrayal. The third one is fear of failure. I don't know what I'll do if it doesn't happen, so I'm not going to try. In other words, I can't pursue my dreams because I might fail. Yes, honey, it is hard to ask for help. I am the queen of that. I am the queen of I'm going to do everything by myself. I don't need any help. I was like that for so many years that I wouldn't ask anyone for help. And you know what I think you can do in a situation like that? Start by asking for small things. Ask for something small and see what kind of response you get. You know, even if it's, in my private one-on-one coaching sessions, I had to tell one of my students, ask your husband to put the gas in the car. Ask him. He's dying for you to ask him for help. Ask him. Start with something small. Because getting a yes is getting a positive response that lets you know that things are not going to cave in on you. Nothing bad is going to happen. And it's okay to start with something small. Let's see. You are reading my worry log. Oh my gosh. Get over it. I want you to get over it. But I understand you have to take baby steps sometimes. So fear of failure, though, understand this. I think this is what people don't understand about fear of failure. Like, I don't know what I'll do if it doesn't happen, so I'm not going to try. Fear of failure, a lot of times, is not wanting your life to change in ways you're not prepared to handle. That's deep, right? That's deep, right? Not wanting your life, fear of failure is not wanting your life to change in ways that you're not prepared to handle. A lot of times that means change means you're going to have more demands on your time. On the one hand, you want more success, but more success means there can be more demands on your time. And more demands on your time mean that you're going to be able to spend less time with your family, your husband, your children. And so we're afraid to fail, so we don't try. But the fear of failure is really wrapped up in you're not wanting your life to change because you're not ready Maybe you're not prepared for the change. Maybe that promotion, maybe you're still remaining someone's assistant and you're not going for jobs that you know that you could key, and you're not putting yourself out there because you're afraid of how things are going to change. Okay, for you. Because as an assistant, you are able to do the job without really being responsible for the outcome. You have to ask yourself about that. So what are the limiting beliefs? And once you realize that's what you're doing, maybe that's a perfect time to have a conversation with your husband, to have a conversation with your kids, to say to them, you know what? I have an opportunity, but I'm really afraid to take it because it's going to mean that I'm going to have less time with you guys. And you might find that your husband's like, well, don't worry about that. I mean, let's just sit down and talk about it and let's work out how we can make it happen. And your kids might say, Mommy, Daddy, it's okay. We'll make it work, No, maybe you're going to have to spend a couple of nights working a little bit later and we won't be able to watch Scandal together, but we can watch it on weekends on the reruns. Do you see this might sound silly, but these are some of the things that you can actually do. But you have to stop and give it some thought, because that, number 3, fear of failure, is a limiting belief. Number 4, judgment. I'm too old. It's too late for me to pursue my dreams. I waited too long. What are people gonna think if I tell them I'm going to quit my job to become a full-time makeup artist? What are people gonna think if I tell them that I'm gonna start my own YouTube channel at 50? What are people gonna think if I start auditioning for movie roles? What are people gonna think if I tell them I'm gonna write a book? What are people gonna think if I sell my salon to start freelancing? You see, what you're afraid of is the judgment of other people on the decisions that you want to make in your own life. And this is another example of something that we discuss in the Win Now Mentorship Program. And we tackle it in a module titled, Don't Call It a Comeback. Right? Don't call it a comeback. And the biggest nugget I'm going to give you about that is, number 1, stop telling people what you're thinking about doing and just do it. Number 2, start operating in stealth mode, under the radar. Start putting the building blocks in place. Start putting the things in place that you're going to do so you're prepared just to make a move. Because guess what? You don't need permission. You don't need permission. You're not too old. It's not too late. 10 or 15 years ago, yes, move in silence. 10 or 15 years ago, I was doing one of my Packaging Your Portfolio workshops. There was a makeup artist. Some of you guys might know her. Her name is Brandy Hopstein. And she came from Louisiana to New York to take my workshop. And I always ask the question, because the class is several $1,000s, and I always ask the question, who in here has people, friends, colleagues who told them, don't come, don't spend the money, don't do it? Half the class raises their hands, all kinds of things. Why somebody, I wouldn't do that. Why would you do that? You don't need to spend that money. You can figure this out on your own. When they know good and damn well they can't figure it out on their own. Do you know what I mean? But the one that blew me away and changed my life, not that I haven't always been a preparer, I'm a preparer, but somebody said to her, well, I took that class like 5 years ago. And I know Crystal knew her stuff then, but she can't possibly still be relevant now. What? That's what somebody told her. I couldn't possibly still be relevant after all of these years. And instead of allowing that negative thought to derail me, I overcommitted myself to being overly prepared at all times. And so instead of allowing that to become a limiting belief, first of all, she didn't allow it to limit her from coming to my class, and I didn't allow it to limit me by thinking that I was washed up, by thinking I didn't have anything to offer, by thinking that I couldn't do any more, by thinking that the hair, makeup, and styling career guide, I updated it 3 times and that was it for me. Instead, I used what she said as the fuel to keep me on top of my game. Okay? So what I'm trying to tell you guys is you can take these limiting thoughts that people try to put on you and you can flip them around and use them as the fire underneath you to keep the flame burning. You can use them as the wind underneath your wings to keep you going. You know, lots of successful people have said, yes, somebody told me I couldn't do it, and that's why I went ahead and did it. Because they said I couldn't do it. So I worked harder, I tried harder. But again, all of this goes back to what you take that's scaring you, what you take that's threatening you, what you take that is limiting you, right? And turning those thoughts into something else that you write down on a piece of paper, that you memorize, and that you use, okay? That they become your armor. In the Bible, it says that the universe operates on the word. So you have got to create words that empower you to move forward in everything that you do. Let me tell you something. I was reading the other day. When I thought about this, I started putting all kinds of different words, limiting beliefs, because it just, came up in my nighttime. Limiting beliefs. Thoughts, negative thoughts, and I put together this little presentation. So there was a belief back in the 1500s, and they called it the glass delusion. The glass delusion. People were actually afraid. This went on from 1561 until the early 1700s in Europe. People were afraid that they were actually going to shatter into 1,000 pieces. It was called the glass delusion. Can you imagine? They were afraid they were going to shatter into 1,000 pieces. This is real. In fact, the French King Charles VI used to wear extra clothes because he was afraid he would bump into something, or somebody would bump into him, or he would sit down and he would shatter. They said that one person used to go take a pillow with them everywhere to sit on it because they were afraid their buttocks were going to shatter. Are these thoughts any more ridiculous than what you are holding on to? What are you holding on to that's limiting you, that's stopping you, that's keeping you from moving forward and doing something uber fantastic in your life? She says, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty together again. Does anyone feel like Humpty Dumpty? Like you're gonna fall off of that wall and shatter into 1,000 pieces like people in the 15th, 16th centuries did in this glass delusion. You see what I'm saying? And here's the other thing I want you to think about. If you're worried about what people are going to say about you, what did people say about Oprah? They said she was a fat hag. They said she was overweight. And then when she started doing well and making money, they called her money grubbing. What do they say about Ellen DeGeneres? They call her a homo. They said she was a disgusting gay. They called her an evil lesbian. So if they would say those things about Oprah, if they would say those things about Ellen DeGeneres, you can't possibly believe that you're going to escape people saying negative things. And that's why I want you to design your comeback right now. I want you to design your comeback. I want that comeback to have the words that you need to bolster yourself in the face of other people trying to define for you where you're going to go, what you're going to do, what you're going to achieve, how high you're going to make it, right? You cannot leave a vacuum in your head. You can't leave a vacuum where people can plant whatever they want to put there. Yes. Patrick said even Jesus had haters, so who am I? Right? The moral, people will always judge others. Living life doesn't come with an escape clause. If you stick it out, you're going to be judged. That is a fact. If you stick it out, if you succeed, you're going to be judged. You're going to be judged along the way. People are going to say all kinds of things. But let me tell you something. The same people who have something negative to say, a lot of times when you get to the top are going to be the same ones that flip the script and say, I always knew you were going to make it. Listen, when I quit my job at Xerox in the 80s, yes, that's how long I've been around. When I quit my job at Xerox in the 80s to represent a photographer, and I was doing a fantastic job. You know why? Because that's who I am. I do a fantastic job. I was doing a fantastic job for him. And he still fired me. Yeah. He still fired me from that job. And I went home and got in my bed in Inglewood, California, in my apartment. And I just pulled the covers over my head for like 2 days until his makeup artist called me up and asked me to be her agent. Yeah, that was a moment of truth for me. But it was hard. He said all kinds of awful things about me. He said I stole his clients. He said I stole money from him. And every day that I went out, I had this fear that somebody was going to know that I was the girl that he was talking about. Do you know what? 15 years later, standing in a jazz club, that same man bought me a drink. And I didn't even realize who it was until my eyes refocused in the dark. And I said, you are buying me a drink? And he apologized to me. He said, Crystal, you were just too much. I just didn't know what to do with you. You scared me to death. And the only way I could deal with it was to get rid of you. Because you were such a powerful person. Imagine that. Imagine that you are that powerful person. It's the beginning of 2019. I'm here to tell you, you are that powerful person. And the people who are your detractors are just afraid. They're afraid. But those same people might be the ones saying, oh my God, I always knew you were going to be successful. Yeah, because people have short memories. And now they want to be on that bandwagon. So what can we do? Number one, we can create new anchor thoughts. New anchor thoughts that we can fill our heads up with when negative information or just old negative thoughts start to rise up, I give you permission to say no and replace that negative thought with something new. Replace limiting thoughts with empowering ones. That's why you get to design the empowering thoughts that you want to put in your head. You can design them. You can write them down and just replace them with the old things that are keeping you stuck. Change your self-talk. I've never forgotten that from when I was working at Xerox and they had a motivational speaker come in and he said, you have to change your self-talk. The things you say to yourself can be more detrimental than the outside forces that from time to time make you feel that you can't do something. Is it them or is it the fact that you've adopted what they've said and taken it on as your own? And now you need to replace it with an empowering thought that becomes the fire underneath your butt and the wind underneath your wings. Number 2, please yourself. Stop trying to please everybody else and please yourself. Here's a thought. It's not my job to please everyone. How about that? When people start making you think that you owe them, or that you should do it their way, or you're not doing it good enough for them. Guess what? It's not my job to please everyone. How about we replace that negative thought with that? Please yourself. Number 3, be yourself. Do you. There's no one else like you. You're unique. You're a one of a kind. That is the thought. That's the thought I want you to take on. You know what? There's no one else like me. I'm unique. I'm one of a kind. You can replace those negative thoughts in your head with that. Because I want you to be yourself and do you. Number 4, pursue your dream. The thought that I want you to have in your head is, I have the talent to achieve the success I was designed for. I have the talent to achieve the success I was designed for. You do. I'm here to tell you you do. Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you something else. If you are challenged with any of the things that we talked about here today, and if you're a freelancer and becoming successful as a freelancer is your dream, I would love to help you. I would love to help you. I can help you one-on-one through my one-on-one coaching. I can help you in the Win Now mentorship program. But you're going to have to leap so that the net will appear. I can't help you if I don't know you need help. Here's something else. Choose what you watch on TV. Choose what you listen to in your car on the radio. If you want to listen to more positive things and you're not hearing them on 92.3 FM The Beat, then maybe what you should be listening to is what I listen to, which are audiobooks, which you can listen to on Audible. You know, that's $17 a month or $14 a month or whatever it is. It might seem expensive, but is it more expensive than you being successful? Is it more expensive than that? If that $17.99 will make it possible for you to change what you're listening to, and if changing what you're listening to will empower you with new thoughts that you can use to bolster yourself in challenging situations, then I'm here to tell you that is absolutely 100% worth it. You know, there are 2 things. One of I've been thinking about this renewing your mind all the time. I mean, I think about it all the time, but I've been reading this devotional by Casey Treat called Renewing the Mind 2.0. And every single day of that devotional has been so powerful. I just want to stand up on a roof and scream at the top of my lungs because it's just so powerful. And for me, it's such a reminder. And reading it in the morning and starting my day that way, is been such a treat for me. So renewing the mind, and actually, I was watching the devotional, so I bought the book. Here it is. Look at this. Casey and Wendy Treat, Renewing the Mind 2.0. With God's grace, you can change. So I'm reading this. I just got it. I'm not going to say I started reading it because it just came yesterday. But I did open it up. And I highlighted Wendy, his wife, talked about her mother. And her mother always just used to say, we don't get sick. Oh, we just don't get sick. She didn't baby anybody in the house who thought they were coming down with a cold. And she said she believed this, we don't get sick. And her belief became my belief. Isn't that powerful? Her belief became my belief. And that is just a testament to the fact that you can create a new belief system for yourself. And you can embed it into your life by writing it down, reciting it out loud, and embedding it into your own head so it's there and available to you when negative thoughts start to creep in, or negative people start to come into your life. One of my favorite books is Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. That book is everything, because what it does for you is that it lets you know that you have the power to control what's in your head. See, a lot of times we think that when we have thoughts, we just have to roll with it. It's like being in a relationship with a dude and he breaks up with you, and now you want to listen to the saddest music that you can, and you just play it over and over and over again, and you feel worse and worse and worse and worse. So that is a choice to feel that way. I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody breaks up with you, you're going to feel bad. Even if you break up with them, you're going to feel bad. But you don't have to empower the feeling of feeling bad by putting on records that make you feel even worse and watching the saddest movie in your life. You see what I'm saying? That you can control. Napoleon Hill said, if you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Everything, the battlefield is always in the mind.